here at CNBC. And I want to welcome everyone to our panel discussion here. We'll be here today to discuss mentorship and how important mentorship is for young Black journalists and Black journalists at any stage of their career, and what the importance of NABJ is and mentorship for this organization, and the importance of it, why others should get engaged. I'll have everyone here on our panel introduce themselves very quickly. First, I'll let Annette go as well, who is also on the board for YBJ as well. Annette?
Hi, everyone. My name is Annette Montgomery. I'm from Miami, Florida, and right now I'm currently in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at WPDE ABC 15 News. I'm a reporter / MMJ, and I'm the social media chair for the Young Black Journalist Task Force. And I'm super excited for this panel. My mentors have gotten me where I'm at today, so I know how important mentorship is.
Okay, great. So as Annette said, we both are on the board here. So we're going to take the position here of mentees, because we're, of course, the younger journalists here, and we want to definitely welcome the three panelists we have. We want to thank you all for joining us, coming to help impart your expertise, your wisdom, and helping us to help others learn how they can navigate this organization, how they can find mentorships or mentors, and how they can also get engaged themselves in the future one day themselves as well. So we'll go ahead and start with Ken. Got yourself muted.
Can't hear so well like that, huh? So I'm Ken Lemon. I'm the current VP of Broadcast for NABJ. Ironically, Annette started my career in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And so I've been a journalist now for frighteningly long time, decades, and the former chapter president in Charlotte and former regional director, and glad to be here to assist in any way I can.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. And Tory, we'll go with you as well. Next.
Hey, hi, everyone. My name is Tory Parrish. I am Region 1 Director for NABJ, which is basically the East Coast. I'm a business reporter at Newsday in New York, and I'm a former chapter president for NABJ for the Pittsburgh chapter. And I'm happy to be here tonight.
All right, great. And certainly last, but certainly not least, we have Vincent, who I have the privilege of calling my mentor, who's helped get me to where I am in this point in my career, and who helped also introduce me to Ken before as well, to kind of bring him to my orbit as well, and to be able to pick his brain, learn from him also. So Vince.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for the invite. I'm Vincent McCraw, and I'm the current president of the Detroit chapter of NABJ, probably in my 5th or going into my 6th year in this role. I've been in the journalism business all my career, 40 years on the print side, with stops in Atlanta and DC. And I took a buyout after 20 years at the Detroit News about 2 years ago. And now I'm currently founder and CEO of my own media consulting firm.
Nice. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and get this discussion going. So I have a list of questions over here that I'll kind of use to help keep the conversation going. I want to welcome everyone who is joining in on this webinar as well. I know that CJ has allowed the chat room to be open, so if you have any questions, we'll keep our eye on that as well. So if we have anyone in the audience who would like for a question for us to be asked, Annette will look for those, and she'll definitely make sure she chimes those in to make sure that we can get those questions answered as well. So great, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we'll go pretty much, I'll just have a quick question, and we'll just pretty much we'll feed off each other, our energy, and just go about. So we'll start off with first, why is being a mentor important? If we want to go ahead, anybody want to start with that? Why is being a mentor important?
I'd start. Go ahead, Vince. You start.
I don't mind starting first. I think, like I said, with my 40 years experience in the business, in my early years, I didn't even know what mentors and mentees were. I would have been a mentee and didn't know, or I didn't know what it was, but I came to find out and realize that through the relationships I was building in newsrooms, small and then ultimately mid-sized and then large, I was creating mentors and didn't know it. Then what I had to do was to learn how to develop those relationships and what to do about it. And they're important because not only are they useful in guiding you through your career, but they can also work because, the veterans know the obstacles and the hurdles. Many of us have cried on someone's shoulder or just cried in our cocktail glass. So that's the benefit of it, and that's the usefulness of it. But it's also, and I just want to, and I may say this again at some point, but it's also because you can develop, and you should develop, a relationship that expands beyond the professional, if you will, in terms of a mentor. They become parts of your life.
I'm proud of your life. That's definitely true. Ken, you want to go ahead and chime in as well?
Yeah, I'll say the bottom line, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for people mentoring me all the way through. So before I became a reporter, I took a job as an editor in a station, and I was determined that I was going to become a reporter. And another Black journalist took me by the wing and said, "Come on out, come on the weekends with me." And I went out on the weekends on my own time. He let me ask questions in his Vosats and learn question and answer. And then when I made the jump from that market to where I am now in Charlotte, the speed and the pace of everything was just, it was more than I could handle. I wasn't quite used to that. And so that first month of me being in Charlotte, had it not been for the photographers who basically said to me, "Hey, look, let's show you how to do things here," who really took me under my wing, I don't know that I would have survived here. And I tell them that every chance I get.
And then to take the perspective, I guess, as a mentee, the role that I think a mentor plays or played in my life is that there's certain things that in your first year, your first few years that you don't know, and you might think you know, but you truly don't know. And there's questions that you have that you really can't ask maybe somebody at your job or a family member that might not know. So having a mentor in your field, I think for me, it's just shown that they've taught me things that I wouldn't have known unless I had a mentor there that had that experience that could help me.
And mentors, to Annette's point, and that's exactly right, because mentors can oftentimes see things that you won't before you get too far, and can sort of steer you in a different direction.
Definitely. So let's bring Tory in. So Tory, could you maybe give us an idea of define what a mentor is, and give us an idea of what some of those responsibilities are and what an expectation would be? Because there's a lot of responsibilities. It can sound good to have a mentor, to say you have someone who has your back, but sometimes we have to make sure we're actually filling the shoes that we want to put on, I would like to say. So explain to us what being a mentor really is, and what are those expectations that you should take on when you take on that role?
I think a mentor is the goal, or the aim of a mentor is to offer career guidance, and focused on the term offer career guidance. As other people have said during this Zoom, there are things that young journalists, when you go to school, you get your degree, you intern, but there are some things that you will not know until you're actually in the workplace. So you offer career guidance. It can be also a friendship. I think it's really important that a mentorship relationship be a give and take. It can't just be the mentor just calling when they need something. It should also be the mentor calling just to say, "Hi, how are you?" And also, if you've put someone in a place to be a mentor, you should be following their work. And so that means you're reading their articles online, you're watching their news pieces. We have the internet. There's no excuse for you not to know what your mentor does day to day. And so you could just give some feedback, like, "Hey, John, I saw that piece you did on Black Lives Matter. I saw the piece you did on the riots in Washington, D.C. I like the way you did that. I think that was interesting. Tell me more about that." I think it should be a give and take. Like, I hear that from mentors, that sometimes they only hear from their mentees when they want something, and that sours the relationship. You're on mute, Tyler.
There we go. Perfect. And there's one thing I've always, I think was very important for what you said there. You said it's not just really a one-way street. The one thing I always like to differentiate from is the difference between a role model and a mentor. A role model can be a mentor, but a mentor is not necessarily always, however you want to put that, but pretty much a mentor should be a role model, but a role model is not necessarily always a mentor, because a role model, you may not actually know the person who's role model. So can you kind of explain more along those lines, what the difference between a mentor and a role model may be, and how you see those two?
So, go ahead,
Tori. Tory or Ken, either or.
Ladies first.
I'll start naming names first to make sure we don't run into this again. So Tory.
Well, I think one thing about a mentor is sometimes a mentor tells you what you need to hear, but not necessarily what you want to hear. They can give that tough love, if you will. You're messing up at work, you're putting out subpar work. You're always in an argument with every boss you have. They can give you that tough love, like there are some things you need to address to advance. It shouldn't just be, everything's roses and wonderful and candy. Sometimes mentors there to give you tough love, like, hey, you messing up. That article was horrible. It wasn't well sourced. It's full of mistakes, whatever it may be. I think a role model is someone that you follow and you might emulate. A mentor is someone who can give you guidance.
Mm-hmm. More hands-on.
I'm not there. Yeah, I'm not here to have you follow in my footsteps. I'm here as a mentor, hopefully, to prevent you from making mistakes.
Definitely. Ken, I know you wanted to chime in on that too.
Yeah, I tell all my mentees to always have a role model. That is, take a look at somebody who's doing it the way you would like to do it. Follow, understand exactly what they're doing. You don't necessarily have to be, talking to that individual to understand what good work looks like. And a lot of times, if you're really structuring yourself to what a role model is doing and the kind of job they're doing, it starts to slowly move you into that path. Now, I tell them to look at it and understand and learn, but not necessarily to take, because nobody's gonna pick up another TJ Holmes if you have a TJ Holmes, but it'll help you to understand. As a mentor, what I'm there to do is I am there to help you understand when you don't always see exactly what it is that individual is doing, that you could be doing, that you're not doing, that helps you through that process. But we should always be consuming other people's work. So not every mentor needs to be a role model. You're so right about that, Tyler.
Great.
Tyler, we actually have a question in the chat.
Oh, great. You want to go ahead and lead with that one?
Sure. So someone asked, how do you go about finding a mentor? Not everyone wants to be a mentor. So would you suggest emailing someone you admire in the industry and asking if they're open to that kind of professional relationship?
Yeah, I'll start. Yes, that's what I encourage. When we've been in person during our national conventions, the most recent one, Miami. That's what I tell some of the younger people. If there's somebody at the convention that you think would be a good mentor for you, approach them, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, tell them what you're doing, and go from there. You have to take the initiative. Oftentimes, some mentorship relationships are organic and naturally happen. Others, and many of them, you have to seek out. And I think you'll find, at least in the NABJ circle, that most of us are amenable to doing that. Now, you may find some who aren't, because they may have more than they need already. I mean, that happens. But you also, don't be passive about it. If there's somebody, and in the case now that we're in this environment of COVID, yeah, I would suggest if there's somebody that you think could be of service to you, for lack of a better term, you reach out to them through the email. Tell them who you are. Seek them out. Tell them what you're looking for, and see what the response is, and then you can go from there.
Right.
I saw this. Oh, Tori's got her hands up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a Trekkie, and I saw this wonderful kind of Trek episode that I really loved. It made me think about this relationship too, when it comes to finding your mentor. And it was a situation where a guy was out in deep space. The only thing he had was his computer, and the computer asked his name, and they developed a real close relationship. And at the end, when they departed, he went back to the computer. He says, if this was a real connection in my planet, I wouldn't give you my name. You would give me your name. I say that to say that just because you identify somebody as wanting to be your mentor doesn't necessarily have to be that's your mentor. That person will be your mentor. You have to find people that cultivate the best in you. Some people need to have somebody who's really strong to cultivate the best of them in you. Some people need to have some individual who's not as strong. So when you look out there, try to find first an individual that's going to listen to you and be amenable to what you have to say and what you're asking for, and help you through that process. and work that relationship. And if you find one that's good, that's going to be your mentor for life. My mentors that I developed 20 years ago are still with me, and I still pick up the phone and they still call, and they know sometimes I'll call at 10:30 at night and not just 10:30 in the morning.
And if I could just, Tory, go ahead. I'm sorry, you wanted to.
I was just going to say that to the person who asked that question, that was Alex Whitler, take advantage of NABJ's mentorship programs. Region 1, my region, I started a Region 1 program, mentorship program in 2019. We're now in our second season. I don't know if that will continue past my term, which ends in August. But then overall, national NABJ has a mentorship program, which Clarence Stone, who's on this panel, started last summer. And I think it's going to come back this year, for probably in the spring. It's completely free. And we worked really hard last year to pair mentees with highly qualified mentors. Like there was an application process. We made sure to match people who had similar interests. Like if you're majoring in broadcast journalism or you're an early career broadcast journalist, we matched you with broadcast journalists, preferably in your city. So take advantage of those programs, and they're completely free.
And I was going to add that if you are affiliated with a chapter in your city, that's also a good resource to at least start. And to ask some of the professionals, seasoned professionals in those chapters, if it's not them, they can give you some guidance as to how to go about that.
Right. And so great. And so let's back that up again to so I think one of the very big things about it, because I would say that definitely one of my favorite ways of networking, kind of like how Vince mentioned earlier, sometimes is getting a chance to go grab a drink with someone. And I think that's one of the best ways to foster a mentorship or relationships in general. Just outside of mentorships, when we go to conferences, just having a chance to rub elbows with some people who are from all over the country who have various type of experiences and whatnot. But unfortunately, we do live in a time of COVID, and we just can't rub elbows the ways that we used to. And networking is one of my most favorite things to do. And so there's really a empty missing part of me right now. So in the age of COVID, how do we go about seeking people out who can be our mentors, and even sometimes reaching out to make sure that we get a response? Because sometimes it's hard to try to maybe drop a DM in someone's Twitter account, or it might be hard to try to get them by email when it's hard to really just get an organic relationship fostered up. So what are some of your ways of trying to reach out, find someone
I think this probably becomes the test of young journalists' reporting skills. Networking, you'll have to figure out a way to network now in this environment. If it's not emailing, and if you need to find an email address, then go within your network and see who knows who can give you the email address, who can give you, well, now I guess in this case, the cell phone numbers. You have to do the work. And I think it requires some reporting on your part to connect with that, to make the initial connection. Because if the person that you're interested in talking to be a mentor, they may not know you're out there or that you're looking for them. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to make that connection. And I think you just do it within the network that you have, using the resources that you have right now in this environment, which is through email and cell phone, and checking with whomever within your network, and see who they may know who can help you out to get that information.
Sorry.
As Vincent said before, he mentioned chapters. There are a lot of chapters that are very active, almost just as active now as they were before the pandemic. I think it's really crucial as part of networking is to be involved in a local chapter. I know chapters that are every month, they're having some kind of meeting, professional development, they're having mixers. Look right in your own backyard in your local chapter. Also, LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and go to similar circles, your network of social circles. Also, your college alumni chapters. Reach out to your college alumni chapter and say, I'm looking for a mentor. And there are alumni who are involved at those alumni chapters who would be very happy to link with someone who's in college or an early career journalist. I think that sometimes people, they get out of college and they forget how much of a resource your college and alumni chapter can be, especially HBCUs. They look out for their alumni.
Ken?
Yeah, and let me suggest one more thing, because this is an opportunity that COVID creates, right? all of our chapters can no longer meet. So how are we meeting? Just like this, we're all on Zoom. So if you're interested in working, let's say in the DC area, and you're right now in Macon, Georgia, and that just seems like a far off place, go to that DC chapter page, find out when their next meeting is going to be, and attend. Go to it and say, hey, look, I'm so and so from Macon. I've been watching the DC area. Maybe I'm from the DC area. I have family there. I would love to connect with some journalists who could help me. Because one of the things, particularly with TV, one of the things that you'll know is that there are market trends, and so what you do in Macon, of course, not just because it's a smaller market, doesn't always lend itself well to that area. And the other thing is you want to build those cheerleaders, those individuals who say, oh, what? Somebody's leaving. I got this guy in Macon, Georgia, who's great. I've got this woman who was over here. I've got this individual who's doing some really great work. And then not only that, they will march right into your office. One of the things I really loved is I had a mentee, and I had someone else that I brought on as a mentee as well. And this is an individual who's looking for work. And I said, well, where do you want to go? And I always do this with mentees. Where do you want to go? And then I go back to my circle of friends, including mentees who are in other cities. Called up this one mentee. She says, okay, I tell you what, give me that friend's information. That guy got the information, and then he called me back. Called me back later on. And he said, they're starting a brand new show. She's going to be the co-anchor. They're allowing her to choose what co-anchor she wants. I've got to read in 2 days. I need to get up to that city to read. And so being able to open yourself and avail yourselves to some of these Zooms will give you an opportunity to connect directly with people in areas that you may not be able to attend or touch in a new way. So it's new access.
And then also, I think before COVID, social media was super popular, but now with COVID, it's everyone's on social media all the time. So I think if you're following someone on social media that you feel like would be a good mentor, or that you're just interested in their work, I think sending them a quick DM, hi, I'm interested, I read this story that you did and I was very impressed. Here's my number. If you have any time, I would love to speak with you for just 5 minutes and just pick your brain. I've done that before, and every single time I've done that, I've had great results.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
Don't start with your clip. Really don't start with your clip, because time is precious and it's difficult, and you have to deliver some news to an individual. So I don't want to look at your clip if I don't know who you are, because if I have to tell you some things that you don't like, then so don't go, hey, I'm so and so, can you take a look at my stuff? The first thing that you need to do is to make a very genuine and honest connection with them, and then after a discussion or so, then say, hey, look, if you have time, I'd love for you to take a look at this clip. But it's kind of difficult to be as honest as you can be with somebody that you don't know.
Good point. Good points. Good points. So do you want to take a quick welcome everyone who has joined the chat so far. Thank you for joining us. Once again, this is the NABJ Young Black Journalist Task Force. We're having a discussion on mentorships and how important mentorships are for our careers and career trajectories, and just networking in general as part of NABJ. So I wanted to say welcome and thank you all for joining in on us with us again, and we'll just keep discussion going. So I do see we have another question in the chat here from Javier. He said he's from Harlem, and he wants to know, what advice do you all have for a young and inspiring journalist who would like to enter the sports industry? Do you all have any comments or advice for a young brother looking to get into sports journalism?
I know nothing about sports, absolutely nothing. But I will say one little piece of advice I could give is to join the sports task force that NABJ has, and I'll find it and put the link in here, because that is a very active task force. I know there are a lot of seasoned journalists on there who, they want to see young journalists win, and they are very supportive. They have lots of activities. I think it's probably the most active task force NABJ has, besides YBJ, of course. But that's one little tip I have. But again, I know nothing about sports, so that's all I can offer.
So here's a question then. So is it possible that you can find a mentor who may not really be in your career trajectory? Can you get someone, if you're a digital journalist, you write for web, do you think that you can find a TV producer who could be your mentor and help develop you in your career? Any thoughts on that, anybody?
Yes. As a matter of fact, my fiance really kind of put me up on this idea of having a board of directors when it comes to mentors. And that is not just relying on one person in one area to help you out, but relying on a group of people. And when we first met years ago, I was like, why would you say that? That doesn't sound like a good idea. But then what this does is this creates not only an opportunity for you to connect with several different people and learn several different trades, but it also provides you 5 or 6 people who are going to champion your cause, who are going to be there for you, who are going to help you learn and grow. And particularly when it comes to broadcast, this industry is growing in leaps and bounds. So when I started decades ago, it was a medium for the listener and viewer. And now it is a medium that's also for the reader. And that's something that I had to make an adjustment to. So, having somebody who's outside that direct discipline is okay, as long as they can still give you good, solid, sound advice. I would recommend it. And the other thing is, with me, my schedule was really kind of hectic. Years ago, when I had mentees, I could talk with them regularly. I could, this is Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, that's your night, Wednesday, this thing. Now my schedule is difficult. I don't want my mentee to ever be held up on a question or an opportunity because I can't pick up the phone in that minute. And they should still have other people who can help them when they're in an urgent need of help.
I really like what you said there. Get you a board of directors like that. I think that's phenomenal. Definitely. I think that just means make sure you can have multiple people who can give you advice. Sometimes some mentors have more expertise in one topic than another. So sometimes you can bounce these ideas off of multiple. Some may have better advice in another, but sometimes that other mentor may come through in with more advice at a different time. So I think it's very good to have that different thoughts, because sometimes people personally do think differently on things. So, and you can always, distill all the information that you get from multiple people and decide what's the best, route for you to take to go forward. Vince, I know you had your hand up. You want to say something?
Yeah, I want to address Javier's question, particularly where he says entering the sports industry, sports journalism, I presume he's talking about, not knowing exactly where you are or what you're doing right now. I will also suggest that sometimes you have to go through the side door to get to where you want to go. Meaning sometimes maybe you have to start out on the news side or the feature side or the production side. It does two things. It gets you in the door, but it also gives you an opportunity to see how the sausage is made on another side of the industry. And it helps to sharpen your skill. Particularly if it's writing or on air behind the scene. So don't how do I want to say this? Think of other avenues to get in to make the entrance. Not necessarily, maybe sports is not directly the way for you to go. And I say this just in a general sense in your case, because I don't know the details of your situation.
And Javier, if you can, please let me know, are you interested in print or are you interested in broadcast? I can co-sign with Vince on some things. I have talked to a few people who are actually looking for folks in that field with Raycom Sports and with some other folks, but it's very different. And before I even begin to give you any advice, let me make sure that I'm giving you the right information. So if you can put in there if you're interested in print journalism or digital or broadcast, that would help out.
Okay, so we got some good metaphors going here so far. We got, board of directors, got to enter the side door, and I got a perfect one myself too. This is my personal favorite one. One of my mentors told me, send the elevator down. And that reminds me that, when someone helps you get up to your level in your career and where you're at, just send the elevator down. And what that tells me is try to make sure that the next person can help get up. It reminds me not only to be a mentee, but to be a mentor to others. And say you're somewhere in your career right now, you're just not at the point where you're ready to give back and help others out. That's okay. Just know eventually when you're ready, send that elevator back down, help the next person get up to where you're at. And that's one thing that has stuck with me all the time, because my mentor did something, the smallest thing, he just connected me with somebody who was at a news station. And I thought he did the most by just saying, hey, talk to this person. And I was sitting here trying to say, thank you. He said, oh, stop thanking me, just send the elevator down. And that just always stuck with me from there. And that's even one reason why I joined YBJ myself, because I realized that when you're part of NABJ, we're going to get so much from it. And so don't soak everything away, give some back sometimes. Definitely, because even I'm in Harlem, I'm at CNBC, and I got my job at CNBC simply through NABJ as well too. So I knew that I wanted to join the organization and start getting into leadership roles, because I want to make sure that, other up and coming journalists behind me have the same experiences I had, and to make sure that they send their letter back down next too. So that's my metaphor. So if y'all got personalities to bring in, let's keep throwing them in.
If I could just add to Tyler, to your elevator metaphor, I think, I think, oftentimes, depending on where you are in your career, you may be 5 years in, you may be 6 years in, but somebody is watching you. Someone may think that you may make a good mentor to them. So it's not necessarily that you have to have 15, 20, 30 years in. It depends on who sees you and how they interpret and see what you do and how you interact with others, with them, if you know who they are. So it's I think now, looking back, I think the advantage of that for those who are 5, 6, 10 years into the career and they have that opportunity, you're still early enough in your career where it's fresh in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you scraped your knee, how you hit your head, how you stumbled, how you laid down and thought about whether you're going to get back up or not. And you did.
And you did.
That you learned something. And that's something you could impart to somebody not that far behind.
Grace,
And I think
go ahead, Annette. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I think to both of your points, even sending that elevator down could just be answering a question that someone may have. Like, I've had college students reach out to me and I just talked to them on the phone and they were just asking me questions about the interview process, about me making my reel, just things like that. And that alone, they've told me, has helped them so much. So that even in itself, as a mentee, I'm not their mentor and I don't feel like I'm at the mentorship level yet. So I'm still a mentee, but I think that's still me helping them and still sending back the elevator down somehow.
That's so amazing too, because you are like, last night we were watching, I forget the name of this comedian, but she was so funny because she was a little bit older, a little bit overweight, but she said, I'm some government worker's attainable Beyonce. And so while some of us are sitting here thinking to ourselves, I'm not Beyonce, there's somebody down there looking at you going, oh, you are Beyonce, you're everything. And I want to learn how to be like you. And so, there's a big difference, even when you think of like ages, when you're like 13 years old, you're looking up to the person who's 21, and the person who's 21 is thinking life is so much better at 30. But somebody is looking at you no matter what stage that you are going. I wish I was there.
That's so true. So you have 4 good takeaways. You got to get your board of directors. Sometimes got to go in through the side door. We got to send the elevator down, and someone's always watching. We got 4 takeaways, so we'll make sure we got to leave here with a good 5th takeaway. So
and also, I just want to point out in the chat that Brian Cook, the president of the Pittsburgh chapter, is giving us information. Javier, make sure you write that down.
Brian, I'm sending a guide to you too.
And it also looks like that Brian is a good alpha brother. So shout out to the alphas out there, 06. Let's go ahead and drop that in there.
Okay,
first. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
here we go.
Back to the topic. Okay, back to the topic. Okay, 06. Okay. All right, here's another thing. What would you say to a student, or not a student, but someone who's looking for a mentor? And sometimes you'll reach out and ask people, hey, would you mind being my mentor? I remember one time I was at NABJ and I literally got somebody asked, why me? Why do you want me to be your mentor? And I think that's sometimes a good question as well, to make sure you get somebody who would be a good mentor for you. So what do you guys say to sometimes someone who's just having a hard time finding someone? How do you, try to make that right connection for you when if you just don't have, maybe you're not the most, sociable person, or how do you find different ways to connect and build those relationships? Tory, Ken, Vince.
I always try to defer to Tory because Tory is brilliant, but she's kind of shy stepping up sometimes.
You're trying to throw it off on me, Ken.
No, you are. You're very well thought and serious about it. So I love to hear from you. Seriously.
Well, some of you talked about, the question was, how do you find a mentor? Like Tyler, when you approach someone and they're just like, why me? Or I don't really want to do it. then I would say explore every avenue. If you're in college, talk to your professors, then maybe the chair of your department. If you're a young journalist, obviously NABJ is going to be crucial. Also, I tell people this, might not be what people want to hear. Look beyond NABJ. NABJ is a great organization. I've gotten 3 jobs out of NABJ, but there are a lot of other journalism organizations out there. There's the Online News Association, Society of Professional Journalists. When I was in Pittsburgh, there was a women's press club, like local groups. There's JAWS, which is like Journalism and Women's Symposium. Look beyond NABJ to those organizations and to their conventions and their conferences. They can be helpful to you too. We talked about LinkedIn. We talked about college alumni. Cold calling, probably don't want to cold call people. Maybe email them. Journalists are really busy. Nobody wants to get a cold call in the middle of the day. Email someone politely. But as I think it was Ken says, don't start right with, can you look at my clip? Can you look at my reel? Introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Jane Doe. I saw this great piece you did. I'd love to talk to you more about, your career path, and just like ease into that. Just not like right smack them in the face. Ease into that and see how it goes. Your friends who may not be advanced enough to be a mentor, but maybe they can suggest someone. So if you have a friend and they have a great mentor, ask them, hey, I see you have a great mentor. Would he or she be willing to take on someone else? Maybe he or she can suggest someone else. I say it's just to explore all avenues.
I would also add, one, be prepared. I think what Tyler mentioned is a good observation. If a potential mentor says, well, why me? Why do you want me? Have an answer. Be prepared to answer the question of why you would like that individual to be your mentor. So it's also, so a lot of it on the mentees end is about preparation. Be prepared. And having, you don't have to have your life or career figured out. Many of us seasoned don't yet. But so it's about preparation. And I think once you prepare and do the things that Tory has mentioned, you'll be fine. And also, don't be afraid or dejected if the person says no. You thank them for their time and you continue your search. Because not all mentee-mentor relationships fit. Sometimes they don't fit for many reasons. So it's a project sometimes, and it can be, but in the end, you'll find yourself most likely, hopefully, with some good mentors, and the relationship will build from there.
Go ahead, Tory.
One more thing, kind of related to this. If you do get a mentor, someone says, yes, I'll be your mentor, please, by all means, follow up with the person. If they've said they're willing to be your mentor and give their time to you. With my program for Region 1 last year, and well, in 2019, we signed college students up, and there were a good number of those students who just fell off the face of the earth. They weren't responding to their mentor. And these were like high level mentors. These weren't rinky-dink mentors. So why they signed up for the program, I do not know. But if someone is willing to be your mentor, follow up with them. They call you, call them back. They email you, call them back. Schedule a time that's convenient for both of you. Don't waste your time. For one, don't waste their time, number one. And number two, you never know where people are going to end up and who you might be working for in the future and what they'll remember from 5 years ago when you blew them off.
Yeah, I tell you, that is a litmus test for me. So what I do is I tell a mentee when I get them on, I say, Monday night, 8 o'clock, that's our time, but that's your time. I'm not calling you, you call me. And if I don't hear from you by 8:05, then I'm gonna assume that you're not ready and I'm gonna keep going. I'm not gonna sit by and just kind of wait on you. And the best mentees are very serious about that. Some of my mentees have been like, oh, can we meet? I mean, I don't want to do a phone call. What are you doing? Let's go out. Let's grab something to eat. I want to talk to you about this. I want to talk about that. And those are the people I know, okay, this person's serious. this person's serious. And if you really want someone to be a cheerleader for you, really show that you're serious about that. So if I'm asking you for advice, I want to hold on to that. And that's not to say that you won't miss that. We're all in the, this crazy business, and sometimes you have to work and you can't make it. But my best mentees will call me and go, I can't be there. This has happened. This is my first year in the job, and I haven't seen my family in 8 months, and they're going to be in town. That's good. I know what that's like. That's fine. But don't have me sitting at home at 8 o'clock on a Monday night, waiting for you to call, and then you're not there. Because then that makes me think, okay, well, maybe this person needs a little bit more time to think about where their career is before I can be serious about helping.
And then what happens if they list you as a reference on their resume, Ken?
Oh my God, please don't do that. Just
right.
Everybody who's a reference, the worst calls ever is to have somebody call you up and say, hey, Brian. I go, Brian? I don't know a Brian. Brian so-and-so. Look, I work in TV. Like I have names of people I meet throughout the day. All of us work in industry. We meet new people every day. There are some people that my fiance and we've met individuals, and she'll give me their full name. And I've had 3 conversations with them, and I can't think of that name right off the top of my head. When you put somebody down as a reference, call them and say, hey, I just want to make sure you're aware. If they don't pick up the phone, text them. Hey, you said before that I can do, don't put them down unless they say it. You said before I can put you down as a reference. I just, filled out an application so-and-so, and I listed you as a reference. So, we haven't gotten to that stage, but before we ever get there, I just want you to be aware so that we don't have that embarrassing moment. That's one thing. The other is to give that moment where I can't really think about when they ask me those serious questions. So what is it that you like most about this individual? My brain hasn't even been in that thought yet. I can't remember some of the last thing you and I have talked about because it may have been 6 months ago. So be courteous to the people who say yes to a reference, and don't just put somebody down because you've had a couple of phone calls. Ask them. Most of us will tell you, yeah, I will. You can be my reference. Yeah.
And to add to what Ken said, which I agree with, but also particularly if you're calling up and you have a relationship with a mentor, call them and give them a heads up about what you're going to do, that you want to use them as a reference, because you may also find that mentor says, well, let's think about that. Is that what you want to do? Are you ready for that? Are you prepared for that? Because you don't want to put the mentor's name down, and that mentor may not. You'd like to have some sense of what the mentor is going to say before you just put the name down. So that's why having a relationship and doing the things that Ken and Tory have just laid out is important.
And that relationship definitely is important. That definitely is. I think I heard one more thing that I think I'll add to our takeaways from here. So first, we got get your board of directors. So get your board of directors of mentors. So maybe get more than one mentor, maybe up to 5 or so that can help bounce good ideas off of you. What was the other one? Take the side door sometimes, as Vince said. Sometimes if you have a hard time getting to someone or getting to a certain position you want, sometimes you might have to just do a preparatory role or a prep step somewhere. Maybe if you're trying to get into sports, but you're having a hard time getting that first job, maybe take a different reporter job at a station that eventually can get you over to that sports role. The third one was send the elevator back down. So don't only just be receiving mentor, advice and things. Make sure you're passing that advice on to the next generation of people. The next one was also, I lost the next one. It was, what was the next one you had said, Vince? I'm done lost it. Doggone. Oh man. Which one was it? I gotta remember that one, but I know the last one I caught was Tory had said, sometimes take a different avenue. That was another one as well. Take a different avenue sometimes. If you're reaching out to someone and they're not maybe giving you the exact responses you want, sometimes take a different avenue of getting to them, whatever. So I can't remember the fourth. I'm gonna try to get back to that. So I have to rewind it to get there though. So we're at about 7:43 now. Go ahead.
How could that be follow up?
Follow up. I think that's another great one too. Follow up and follow through. Follow up and follow through, because people are offering their time up, and you don't want to have them be stood up and waiting for you, because people really want to help. When people want to help, you want to get that help, because that's the best kind right there. You want someone to be pure, honest, and genuine. So if they keep checking in on you, know that it's a genuine relationship there, and they're trying to help you get there. And oh, that's what it was. That's the next one too. You never know who's watching. That was the other one. So we got 6 takeaways. So the other one was you never know who's watching. I think that's one of my favorite ones there too. So my dad has always told me that from when I was younger. So we're at about 7:44 now. So we're going to try to wrap this up in about 15 minutes. It's still a Saturday night. I don't want to hold everyone up too long, but definitely thank everyone for joining us here for the panel, as well as we still have about 20 participants in. So to the audience, if you have any questions you would like for us to discuss here, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll try to reach it in the next 15 minutes as we start to wrap up a little bit. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll keep this conversation going. So give me what's one of the best lessons you all have learned from one of your mentors? If you can remember from all the years of experience we have and all the great relationships we've had and whatnot, what's one thing that you all have learned from a mentor that you've never forgotten?
My thing is to build relationships. So, and this goes across the board. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it be with your stories, whether it be with the people that you come in contact with. Treat everybody like, and I now in some of my interviews with people kind of iffy, like I might see you tomorrow in Walmart, and you sit down and you give me this interview, and when we run into each other tomorrow at Walmart, we're going to be cool, we're going to be okay. So that is giving that trust. But I've had people call up before and say, one guy really I never thought would call me in this large market, called me up and said, I got a job, I got a Ken Lemon job, I need you here. I went, whoa, really? And like, yeah. And so this was an individual who wasn't like in upper management when they were here, but they remember. And it doesn't matter where these people are. My former producer, weekend producer here in Charlotte, is now head of ABC of CBS News for all the O&Os. My former executive producer is now over NBC Universal. You don't know what relationship you make in those newsrooms and in the field are going to benefit you, because one of the other things that happens when you make a market jump, particularly if you're a beat reporter, when my folks hired me here, they called down the police department because they knew I worked crime where I was. They called down and said, so what was working with Ken Lemon like? And so build those relationships, keep them strong, and always act like whatever it is that we say tomorrow by phone, or that I have to say about you on TV or what have you, then I'm going to see you. Whatever we say today, I'm going to see you tomorrow, and I have to account for it.
Nice. Anybody else want to impart on some of the best advice they received from their own personal mentors?
I think mine, and this was many years ago when I started off my career in Atlanta at one of the black-owned newspapers, Atlanta World, and these were seasoned Black journalists, and they often would, and I was ready and anxious and raring to go and do all kinds of things. And one of them one day told me, you need to be more patient. You need to know patience. And it took me a long time to figure out what he was saying and what he meant. But as my career progressed, I realized that you can't always be in a hurry to get to wherever you want to go. You may have to languish a little bit to get to where you want to go, and that's okay. But patience is helpful.
Before I'm gonna let you go right quick to Annette, but I gotta just piggyback on what Vince said there, because one of my mentors recently just said the same thing to me before. He was telling me about how she was interviewing for a job, and she thought this job was hers, and it felt it was right and everything. And she said, sometimes, don't get too dejected if you get to that last round of the interviews and you thought that job was yours, you thought you were the best candidate for it, and some reason you just didn't get it. She said there was a job she was going for, and it wasn't until months later on, as Vince said, her being patient, she understood why that job wasn't meant for her, because pretty much she was working for a college at the time, and pretty much it was a scandal that wound up coming up, and pretty much, as she liked to say, she said God knew what he was doing when he was steering her clear from that role. So sometimes don't get, too dejected when you think that there's a job that's for you. I've been there myself too, where I thought I was going on to some of the best papers, in the country, and it just wasn't my time yet. So just be patient, and you'll get there for sure too. So I think that's a very good one there. So, and I've heard that from Vince plenty of times myself as well too. So he had to get on my head about a few things too. So it works. Annette, what were you going to say?
I've heard that from my mentors too. So
Boom.
maybe that's a piece mentors just passed down. I've heard patience from my mentors too. One thing I was going to say that I learned from my mentors that's really helped is just finding something to improve on every single day. And I think it feeds in with the patience thing too, because I remember when one of my mentors first told me that, I thought it had to be a huge jump. Like I thought from Monday to Tuesday, there had to be some huge change that was amazing. And he told me, he was like, a small improvement is still an improvement. So even if today your writing is just a little bit stronger than yesterday, even if today your on-air presence is just a little bit stronger, even if today your story is just a little bit tighter, that's an improvement. And your improvements don't have to be huge. Sometimes they can just be small, but every day make sure you're improving at least a little in one area. That's helped me so much.
When are you starting your church so I can put some money in your collection fan? That was good. That was good. I like that. I have given that before. I love that too. That's, whew.
Okay, let's see here. We got a question from Alex. It says, for those who are mentors, what other ways do you appreciate hearing from a mentee? That's a good question. He said we discussed the fact that he or she, I'm sorry, I'm not sure Alex is, but we discussed the fact that these relationships should be transactional for both parties. As a mentee, it's easy to feel as though you can't offer a mentor much outside of asking how they're doing. So what is something that you appreciate hearing from mentees? That's a good one.
I don't know if it's necessarily hearing something, but for me, it's more about seeing the progression. Mm-hmm. If the advice is being internalized and they're progressing and they're finding their way, I think that's the satisfaction and gratification for me. Yes, stay in touch, but I think it's just seeing them develop and progress in the career is what gratifies me.
Vincent, along those lines, do you mean like you give someone your advice and they take your advice? Do you mean like hearing like, oh, thank you, Vincent, that was a great tip, that really worked for me? Like hearing, is that what you mean?
Yeah, we can add that too. Oftentimes, I think too many of us mentors, we don't, some days, depending on your day, you feel like, why am I doing this? So sometimes a thank you doesn't help, and it doesn't have to be the kind of, don't do it just because you think you need to do it. You'll know when something has clicked for you, or even if it didn't click for you, you should reach back to your mentor and say, this is what happened. I thank you for the advice. I thank you for giving me some a shoulder to cry on, or for propping me up that day. Just feedback as to how you are feeling and how you feel your relationship, your mentor-mentee relationship is going. I think that's helpful, and it helps me as a mentor to get a better sense of who you are as a person, because it's also about, when we're all dealing with people here, and we have to. It's not just the professional, helping them on the professional side, but also making sure that there's a good fit for what it is they want to do professionally to who they are as a person.
With Alex's question, the question, I think that's a man. As a mentee, it's easy to feel as though you can't offer a mentor much outside of asking how they're doing. So I'm a journalist. Everyone on this panel is a journalist. With my journal, most of my friends are journalists. Most of the friends on Facebook, most of my real life friends are journalists. And so we're constantly giving each other feedback on stories like, hey girl, saw that story you did. How would you get that interview? That was a great shot. That was a great lead. I would think that that would be the same thing applied to a mentor. You might not say, hey girl. I would think that would be the same relationship with a mentor. Like, we support each other. We give each other feedback. And I think that's one way to go about a relationship with a mentor, is that, it's even if it's not a friendship, it could feel similar to a friendship, like I guess a professional friendship, and that your hand is not always out asking for advice. You're giving feedback on what you see from them, or how'd you do that, or that was a great story, or that was great. How'd you get that scoop? And also, if that's your mentor, I assume you're following them on social media. That's like a given. LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it may be, so you can see how their career is progressing. And so that every time they hear from you, it's not because you're asking for something. And that answers the question you asked, Tyler, about the advice that we all heard from our mentors. One tip, I didn't hear that from my mentor, I heard that from someone else, another mentor, who said she cannot stand when the only time she hears from her mentees is when they want something. It annoys her. So I always remember that, and I try to always remember that and to impart that to other people.
And that's a good thing. We follow through and follow up. So, and then we go ahead with Ken. We'll have this be one of the last comments, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up shortly.
So look, there is nothing wrong with asking how I'm doing. I thought Tory was going to say we're all journalists. There are a few people who ask how I'm doing, and the job is a drag, and it's draining, and it's difficult. And if I've got a few minutes just to say, you know what, I had a really hard day, and somebody heard me, that means a lot to me. I mean, it really does, and that makes me more interested in talking to you. It's the same thing that I do when I talk to my contacts. My first question isn't about what I need. It's like, how's your kid doing in college? You guys got that dog last week. What's going on? The people who talk to you, who hear you when they talk to you, are more willing to talk back as well. So that's one thing. The other thing is, don't assume that I'm the only one teaching. I am my best mentees teach me how to be a better mentor. They help me to understand things that I'm not always thought about. It's been 28 years since I've been a rookie reporter. And so sometimes you can say something to me that might help me say something to somebody else. And that's a value. So, there really is, as long as you're engaging and not only engaging that, and I'm going to give you one don't. And this is the thing that really frustrates me for TV. And I don't know if you guys deal with this. When you're dealing with contracts, is I hate somebody calling me up and going, I'm looking to move to another city. My contract, I got to think about my contract. My contract's up. Okay, what do you need? Oh, when's your contract up? My contract's up in 3 weeks. Well, it's too late now for you to be reaching out to your mentees, to your mentors. You should have been reaching out to me 6 months ago, a year ago, so we can begin to start building a relationship and develop options. So by the time that you get in that position, that you can start, you can choose the path that you want instead of only picking the path that somebody else wants for you.
That's a very good one right there. Very good one. So I think this has been a great discussion here. So I want to leave us once again with our 5 good takeaways that I was keeping track of here. So for the audience that's here, so these are some of the things I thought was most impactful, just one-liners for us to always remember. Board of directors, get you a board of directors, meaning get you a good, nice 3, 4, or 5, a handful of mentors that you can reach out to when you can, depend on and rely on for different scenarios and different reasons. Sometimes one mentor might have a better idea for certain topics, while another mentor might be best for this topic. One might be good for hair discussions, and one might be good for, writing and prose discussions on how to improve your writing. Number 2 that we also love, take the side door. Sometimes you have to find a different way to get to the goal that you want to reach. You can't just always take the same path all the time. So sometimes you have to just try the side door. Another good one is send the elevator down. Always remember that these mentor and mentee relationships are not one way. And always remember as well, when you receive, don't forget to give as well too. So when you get to that level of somewhere that you're at a comfortable level, always send that elevator back down so the next person can get there, because that's of course one thing that's very important for Black people in general for us to rise in this country. Number 4, follow up and follow through. Always make sure you're following up with someone who's willing to pour themselves into you. So if they open up their cup and they're looking to pour into you, please do not just receive and don't follow back and keep your mentor in the loop of what's going on with your life, because they really truly care. And the last good takeaway is you never know who's watching. You never know. So always be on your best. Always, be looking good and showing that, you're a hard worker, because you just never know who's watching you, who may see something in you and they want to pour into you. And you never know who's looking up to you as well. So please make sure to always remember, you never know who's watching. And last thing I want to leave with as well is I thought it was a very profound message that Cicely Tyson had left last week when she had her interview with Gayle King on CBS this morning. Gayle King, of which this interview came, of course, just days before Cicely Tyson passed away this week. Gayle King asked her, she said, "What do you want to be remembered for?" And I thought it was profound because Cicely had said that I did my best. And we all know that Cicely did her best. We all got to watch her growing up and see the light that she was able to shine on this world. So, but sometimes that's the best that you can do, is just simply do your best. And as a mentee, I for sure know that that's what my mentors want me to do, is just I do my best. And sometimes that pleases them. That makes them very happy to know that they could play a role in helping you reach that level that you're at too. So that's what I want to leave you guys with. Thank you all for joining us in for this webinar. Also know that this webinar will go up online, so it will be living online for others to be able to view for years and years and years to come. So I hope there's something you all learned from this and you gained from it. And I hope even the panelists, we all gained something here as well. So thanks for spending your Saturday night with me and having this great discussion. So anybody have any parting words they'd like to leave as well? No?
Thank you all for joining. Please make sure to follow the NABJ task force on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NABJYBJ.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all, everybody. Y'all have a great night and see y'all soon.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Stay black.
Bye.
Bye-bye.